I'm gonna show you 8 of the most powerful analogies that I've used to close millions of dollars for my clients. These analogies are so powerful, they helped me become one of the top reps on Jeremy Miner's team at 7th level in the very first month that I ever closed there. So let's dive in. Number 1 is the inception technique. The most persuasive way to sell someone is by telling a story. The reason being, it's because it's a very natural human reaction to put yourself into the first person protagonist character of the story that you're being told. It's the reason people love to go to the movies and watch things like Spider-Man, is because they imagine themselves as Spider-Man, as the one saving the day, being the hero. Now in sales, we can use this exact thing to our advantage. Let's say someone tells you, hey, it's just too expensive. Whereas other people would attack this objection by being like, oh, look at the value it brings and all this other BS that will never work and it's outdated sales techniques. You could use what's called inception by telling the story. I'll show you how it's done. Yeah, and I knew you'd be thinking that it's too expensive. I actually thought the exact same thing when, I was sitting in a chair last year and I was on the same call as this, and I told the guy on the other end that it's too expensive, right? I didn't have the money for it, obviously, because that was the reason I was on the call. But then he asked me something that really changed the way I thought about it. He said, what would you do if you knew you wouldn't fail? Would you do it? And in that instant, I was like, shoot, the thing that I'm lacking here is certainty that it's gonna work for me, but if I never take the jump, how am I ever gonna know? So it was in that decision right there that I started thinking like the guy I wanted to be and not the person I was right there. Because if I continued thinking like the person I was right there, the only outcome I'm gonna get in life is that of the person right there, which is like 5K a month, 3K a month. So by thinking like the person I wanted to be, I came to the conclusion that I should take the jump and I should make the decision. Once you tell them this story, they're naturally putting themselves into the first person protagonist character of your story. So it will subconsciously persuade them to decide that they want to move forward with you. Now on to number 2. The Usain Bolt dark analogy. Now, for someone to buy your product, they need to experience what it's like on the other side. They need to experience the bliss and what does life look like? Who else does it benefit for them actually getting their problem solved and buying your product? A great way to do this is by sharing this analogy with them. It kind of goes back to this saying that I like. If I were to put Usain Bolt on a 100-meter running line in a high school stadium, he's gonna run fast, but if I took him out and I put him on a 100-meter line in an Olympic stadium with a gold medal on the line, he's probably gonna run a lot faster. Now, it's not because of the shiny gold medal he gets at the end of the race, it's because of the glory and the recognition he gets from his country for when he finally achieves it. So I guess for you, looking at what that gold medal looks like for you, besides you going and making $10,000 a month, what does that really do for you? So this will get them to go below service level on what life looks like on the other side of their solution, creating a much more emotional sale. As we all know, people buy off emotion and they justify it with logic. Now on number 3, the fat kid in the ice cream truck analogy. One thing you'll come to learn in sales is that people run far faster away from pain than they do towards pleasure. Knowing this information, the most powerful thing we can do is make them see the cost of inaction, the consequence. What happens when they don't make a change? What happens when they don't solve the problem? What happens when they don't get this dream state that you just built up for them using the analogy before this? Like, yeah, and I can appreciate that, you want to go and make $10,000 a month and live in Miami in this high rise and drive a Lamborghini Urus. Can I share a perspective on that though? Well, yeah, of course you can. Well, it's sort of like if I put, if I put like a fat kid and he's, running towards an ice cream truck, it's a hot summer day, he's out there running. He's not gonna run over broken glass and he's not gonna run over his mom and he's not gonna run 10 blocks to get to the ice cream truck because at the end of the day, it's just an ice cream. For me, that's going and making $50,000 a month. For you, it's, going and making $20,000 a month and living in this apartment. But if I took that same fat kid and I put him into a burning building, the velocity of which he runs will be so much faster because what happens if he doesn't? Because with the ice cream, it's just, he doesn't get to enjoy the reward. But with the burning building, his cost of inaction is death. It's burning alive in this building. So for you, taking a look at the other side in order to make you run faster than you ever have, what happens if you don't get to experience what it's like to live in this Miami high rise and you continue to make decisions the exact same way and life never changes? And what happens then? That's gonna give you a much deeper answer than if you were to just go straight into a question saying, what happens if you don't ever get there? Now on to number 4, the deer and the bear. This one goes very closely with the last one in terms of making them see and feel, more importantly, the consequence of what happens if they don't actually do anything. The most persuasive way to get someone to change is by showing them what happens when they don't. You have to get them to visualize and feel what an actual consequence feels like. A good way you can do this is by painting out a picture of the deer and the bear. So what if you don't do anything about this though, and you continue to do the same things for the next 2, 3, 5 years and life never changes? I'll just find a way. I respect that. However, if you were to imagine a deer and bear in the wild. Now a hungry bear chases a deer. They're both running really, really fast. One needs to eat, the other needs to live. So which animal gives up first? The deer or the bear? Yeah, well, obviously it's the deer. Why though? He'll lose his life if he doesn't keep running. Exactly, so deep down, it's always good to have like a reason why we're actually chasing something, but the thing that actually motivates us, the thing that's gonna drive us is what happens when the bear gets its claws into us. What happens when the bear is tearing the deer apart limb from limb because he did stop running? Because we all know that person, right? Single mom, 4 kids, still doing yoga on the beach. It's like, what does she put in her coffee? What is she doing so differently? It's a good dose of fear and reality that sets her straight and gets her motivated to get into the next level. Because if you understand the real life consequences of what happens when you don't change, you're far more likely to act. So looking at that side of the coin, what happens if you don't actually make a change and you continue living the same life for the next 2, 3, 5 years? Well, I'll feel like a failure. So now you get the real answer because you reframe them on what failure looks like and why it's important for them to explore failure. Now on number 5, the magic mirror. Now when you're objection handling, one of the best black magic ways to close your prospect is by holding the mirror up. So let's say we're selling sales training and someone tells you, hey, this is just too expensive. Sure, I can appreciate that. Can I share a perspective around that though? Oh yeah, of course. Well, have you ever heard of the law of the mirror? Because basically, according to that law of human behavior, however we perceive ourselves in situations is how people are gonna react when they're speaking to us. So do you see any relation to what's happening in your sales conversations is what's going on right now? Well, yeah, that actually makes sense. Yeah, so along the lines of congruency, being that sales is change, if you ask your prospects to make a change, who does it actually start with? Well, yeah, it starts with me. So with you, is it more risky to continue to not be congruent, continue to not invest into yourself? Or is it more risky to make a change, get congruent, and invest into yourself so you can get someone else to do the same thing? And which one's more risky? Well, yeah, I mean, definitely staying the same. So what that does is it flips the objection of why they're not gonna do it into why they need to do it. Now on to number 6, the cheating wife. One of the biggest objections you'll get in sales is, oh, I've been burned before. I don't wanna get burned again. What this is your prospect is taking the frame from you and trying to take the control out of your hands. As a good salesperson, you cannot let this happen. So I'll show you exactly how you can reframe it using this dark analogy. Yeah, this sounds great and all. It's just like I've been burned in the past and I've been through programs like this before. Totally understand, man. I've been there before. I've gotten burned in the past with a program that I got. The thing is, when you fail in the past with a program, or maybe it doesn't go the way you like, it forms an experience, and that experience is leading to this belief system that, every program I get into is gonna be bad. It's not gonna deliver me results. And let me ask you though, it's the same thing as if you had, a wife or a girlfriend in the past who maybe it didn't work out with, maybe you got cheated on, maybe she broke up with you. Does that mean you're gonna stop looking for the right one? Well, no, obviously I'm gonna continue looking for the right one. Why wouldn't you just stop looking though? Well, because that'd be ridiculous, right? And that's why you're here today, because you're not the type of guy that's gonna let one bad experience stop him from getting the program that's actually gonna get him where he wants to go, right? Well, yeah. So with that in mind, what do you feel you need to do right here, right now to put yourself in the best possible position to succeed? Well, yeah, I think I need to do it. And just like that, we've gotten them over that objection just using the cheating wife analogy. Now on to number 7, death by 1,000 meters. Now when someone objects to investing into your program, your service, your coaching, whatever it may be, the biggest reason I see people let these objections just continue going on is because you're downplaying what the situation is. You're making them think it's not a huge thing to do, when in reality, the opposite of what you want to do. You want to paint this as a huge decision, because what do huge decisions breed? Big change. What does big change mean? A big difference in the level that they can live life at. So the way to get them to see this is by using death by 1,000 meters. Yeah, I can appreciate that you may need to go and think about it, but let me ask you, man, like, what do you feel you would do if you knew that there was no possible way you could fail? Like, if you knew if you got in, you would see the results and you would get to where you wanted to go. What do you feel you would do? Well, yeah, I mean, of course I would do it. How will you know if you don't ever just commit and try? Well, yeah, I won't. Exactly right. And the reason I'm against this way of thinking of going and, just needing to think about it is because ultimately it's like you're going skydiving, right? Now you're flying up in the clouds, you're on the plane, you're scooting up the bench, the door pops open, light pops on above your head, it's time to jump. Now you're scooting, you get up and you're about to jump and you're hesitating. The thing is, do you know what the biggest regret is of people who go up to go skydiving is? Well, I would assume it's like, it's not jumping. Yeah, and it's not because you don't get to experience the bliss and what happens when you get on the other side. It's actually because you're denying your opportunity to become the person that you were there to be, the 2.0 version of yourself. So the realization of the situation, man, is that you're just not jumping. And the longer you take to jump, the more inclined you're gonna be to let this fear and this uncertainty that's stewing up in your brain stop you and prevent you from doing anything, except for sending you back down to the reality you live now, except now with regret of what could have been if you actually did do something. But if you jump off that plane, man, which I know is a huge decision, you're not guaranteeing yourself you'll get there, but you're taking a bet on yourself. Because if you don't bet on yourself, who will? Well, yeah, no one will. So what do you need to do right here, right now to take a bet on yourself so you can put you and your family in the best possible position to succeed? It's probably not go think about it. But yeah, I should probably do it. So you're painting the situation as very big, because that will equal a big change subconsciously. Now, the very last one, and arguably the most powerful, is gonna be the Uno reverse. This is using what we call a sleight of mouth pattern interrupt to get someone out of their own head and into your program. A common objection you'll run into in the info space is, yeah, I don't know if this is something I could commit to right now. Well, I understand that you're not committed, because if you were committed, you would have done something about this 2 years ago. What's your definition of commitment though? Yeah, I mean, it's doing whatever it takes whenever I need to do it. So of course you're not gonna do whatever it takes. Do you know why? Why? Because up until this point, you haven't done what it takes, and you're still the guy who makes 3K a month. So what you're telling me is nothing new, it's just what you've always done. But does that mean that you're not willing to do whatever it takes so you can put your family in the best possible position to be where they want to go? Well, no, I'm definitely willing to do what it takes, because the most successful people that were once in your position and they maybe weren't fully committed, but they still made a change, why do you feel that they did that? Yeah, well, because they wanted to do whatever they could for their family. Yeah, and that's what I see in you as well, because you're not one of those guys that says, I'm not willing to commit and not going to do anything about it. You're one of the guys who's actually going to take the bet on himself. Because the question that matters here is, what happens if you don't do anything and you continue to not be committed and letting this way of thinking where everything needs to be perfect to stop you from investing in yourself? And what happens then? Yeah, well, I'll just stay in the same spot. So what do you need to do right here, right now, to put yourself in the best position to get your family where you know they need to be? Well, yeah, I need to do something about it. So what are you gonna do? Yeah, I'm gonna invest. So those analogies right there are what I use to consistently collect over $200,000 a month in cash collected, not revenue generated, and allowed me to scale my income from working for $5 an hour as a bar back, stacking alcohol in a freezer, to being a remote closer who makes anywhere from $10,000 to $35,000 a month. So if you've enjoyed this video, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and expect a lot more of these coming soon. Thank you guys, take care.